What's up, squad? This is Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I just saw a clip from Tucker Carlson, and it was an interesting clip, so that's why I wanted to discuss it. It was talking about the great topic of this Israel-India relationship that has been blossoming and basically really was shown to the world when Prime Minister Modi of India just visited the Knesset the other day. And Tucker's take on it was this, right? And shout out to Tucker Carlson. Tucker's take was Israel, the public opinion against Israel has changed in the United States, right? And Israel's recognizing, A, both sides of the birds don't like us, right? Left wing, right wing, PR is done here. We got to get out. We got to abandon ship. Tucker say probably sooner than later. What are our options? Do we got any more big players in the field? Well, obviously there are only two, right? You have India and China. And China, you're dealing with an ethno-Han state. It's too much of a cultural gap there. So we have India, democratic, Western leaning, former British colonies, opportunity. And he basically says this was a great opportunity for Israel to basically abandon ship of the United States, partner up with India, a bigger demography. And at the same time, it works for Israel because why not warbait the United States in a war with Iran, and both countries will basically destroy each other, and that ends all well for Israel because now they're the strongest player in the Middle East and they can expand as required. And I want to really offer a different perspective on this in line with the video I already dropped on this. But let's talk on the first aspect, the aspect of this is Israel abandoning the United States. Never, never. Israel is just fine. Israel and the Israeli diaspora is just fine in the United States. Uh, Jewish people have occupied many of the upper echelons of politics, finance, and business within the United States. Anybody that matters from a policy point of view is pro-Israel, right? So I think the Israeli contingent is extremely comfortable within the United States. There is no reason to abandon this relationship. America is still one of the most powerful countries in the world, if not the most powerful countries in the world, as well as the less, with one of the most robust and relatively open markets to operate in. I think Israel moving with India is these guys are quite complementary. They fill a gap they both have. Israel needs a big market because, and I'll get into this in a second, because now you got the world's largest population, right? And it's and India wants to level up. Prime Minister Modi constantly harps on about revolutionizing the technology field, robotics, and AI. And this is where Israel excel at, on the high-end tech field. So not only that, but these two countries have a quite contentious relationships with their surrounding Islamic neighbors. For India, you have Central Asia, the stands. Well, I won't say all the stands because they've been working with relationships with Afghanistan, but primarily Pakistan, which they just had a skirmish with, and Pakistan is nuclear powered, as well as struggling with the proxy political battle that's going on between Pakistan and China against India and Bangladesh. Israel, they have a long contentious history in the Middle East, obviously with the Palestinian question, as well as their surrounding neighbors, which they have had multiple wars with. So both these countries are surrounded by Islamic countries, but they flank these Islamic countries. So together, it's just so complementary. It's a no-brainer, right? And United States, instead of Israel abandoning the United States, I think Israel sees United States as its western anchor, and India is its eastern anchor. And then everything in between is manageable. That's one. The second point I wanted to talk about was Israeli land ambitions. I'm seeing a lot of people comment on this. They're saying that Israel is a growth state. They're a nation looking to expand their territory. And I'm not buying this. With the exceptions of four key critical areas, right? Where if they were to happen to land in Israel hands, I don't think the Israelis will be upset. Beyond these four critical lands, I don't think they want much, if anything at all. Those four areas, West Bank, Gaza Strip, Golan Heights, Sinai Peninsula, right? I think Israel sees itself as having to live in this block, and their neighbors are a nuisance, right? It's a great block that has went to shit, be due to conflict and antagonism, and a lot of it because of the relationship that Israel have with their Palestinian neighbors. But it's a problem that has to be managed, and Israel has to manage this every day in, day out, constant stress and constant duress. So when you have West Bank and Gaza, if they didn't have Palestinians there, that would provide them a lot more security, right? They wouldn't have to worry about the rockets being shot in, a little bit more security in this area as well. Golan Heights, key critical area for the higher ground as well as resource control. In the Sinai Peninsula, that will obviously give Israel access to the Suez Canal, but also it will give them access to controlling that buffer area between them and the largest Arab state in the world, Egypt. Israel has conquered all this area and claimed it before, right? And most of these areas, and since then, and this was during the 6 Day War, but since then, these areas have been compromised for peace within the region by Israel. You can contest Golan Heights, which Israel administers now because it's so geostrategically important to Israel. It's existential. But then you have Gaza and West Bank. It's only now, after the October 7th attacks, that Israel's like, look, man, no more. And they're clearing this place out and turning it into a parking lot. And they're probably doing this to cordon off or at least concentrate the Palestinian problem more to the West Bank and deal with that accordingly in their eyes. And then you have the situation with the Suez Canal, with the Sinai Peninsula, which, as I said, they gave up that because they wanted peace with Egypt, right? And Egypt, for its part, has been chill. So, at least as far as aggression against Israel. So, to me, I don't see Israel wanting to go beyond these areas. I don't think they want to take vast swaths of Jordan or Iraq and build this grand empire. And the reason why is geopolitically and historically speaking, Israelis are for centuries have been nomadic, relatively speaking. These are a group of people which you can say were majority nowhere, but they operated as a minority in many different places. And the way they succeeded was they went to places, found market opportunities, and basically I won't say monopolize, but exerted a strong influence in those areas. Whether you're talking about Europe with banking and finance and things such as usury, they were doing the jobs nobody else wanted to do in Europe, such as tax collection. Whether you're talking about Africa and the mining investments they made to get the mining off the ground in Southern Africa. Or you talk about the United States and the contributions they made to Hollywood. A lot of these industries were underdeveloped, if developed at all, when they were first engaged by Jewish populations. But because this population were much maligned and been ghettoized and expunged and expelled from multiple countries, what they learned to do was, okay, guys, they learned to operate like commandos. Okay, guys, this is our market. Let's get in. Let's hit it heavy. And we can influence this one area. And they became very successful doing that. And from a global point of view, these are not a blood in the soil type of culture, historically speaking, where as opposed to like French in France or the Teutons in Germany. These groups lived all around of Europe, in Eurasia, in the Middle East, and Levant. This is a traveling group. When you talk about a lot of the Israeli diaspora. So the idea of a homeland, I think Israel, from a strategic point of view, okay, it's their homeland. But from a strategic point of view, it is a fortress as well as a harbor to consolidate wins. This is the true function of Israel. I don't think it's a territorial global empire. I don't think these guys want this large swath of land. I think they'd rather be a lot of places, influence a lot, and control a lot, but own nothing, right? Or own little. Because when you own it, now you're accountable to the local populations and their grievances. So I think a country such as Argentina, that's only 30 million people, but it's freaking massive, full of all this food and resources, is far more appealing for a up and coming Israeli businessman than Jordan is right next door. So I just wanted to go and comment on those two aspects because I think the narrative is getting twisted. Like, from a connection point of view, America, from a security point of view and a connection point of view, America is Israel Western anchor. India is going to be its Eastern anchor, and they're going to manage everything in between. And this also allowed Israel to exert a lot of influence and market opportunities in these places with this great relationship. Um, and then also from a territorial expansion point of view, it's just no reason why Israel wants to territorially expand. To what? To encompass, to create an even bigger Palestine? Because that's all they're going to find as they expand land. Is just more Arabs or more Muslims in the region that they're in. And a lot of Israel population is immigrants that come in. As I said, they're using the homeland as a sanctuary for Israelis. That's what Israel is for the Jewish people. And they're fortifying themselves. They're a strong defensive or a strong militaristic country. But make no mistakes about it. I think the situation that the block they're on, I think they find it to be annoying that they have to devote so much of their resources to basically, I don't want to say babysit, but to have this military state because they know they can't rest in their laurels because there's such a negative tension within their area. And I think if they didn't have to deal with this, I don't think they would be mad at all. But it's kind of way the cookie crumble, and this is the situation it is. This is how they have survived, and they make the best of what it is. But I definitely don't think it's because they're just greedy for Middle Eastern land and they want to be in all these places and own all this land. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. And until next time, take care. Bantu up.